Pinot means different things in different countries. If you ask for a glass of Pinot here, you will very likely get something Italian and white, but if you do the same in the US, you'll get a glass of red. So what is going on? What is Pinot, and why are its grapes some of the most highly prized in the world of wine? In the beginning was the grape, and of course it went forth and multiplied and became more and more diverse. We're going to call this original grapevine VITIS. Now VITIS evolved into around 79 different species of plant, and they all work in very similar fashions. They like to put their effort into growing tall, focusing the growth on the highest up part of the plant, and they make small bunches of flowers called inflorescences. The flowers themselves are both male and female at the same time and can be pollinated by the wind. And of course, if the flower is pollinated, it forms a berry, which the plant loads up with sugar that it makes from the sunlight, and it also puts in delicious flavours, all trying to get animals to eat that berry and transport the seed within all around the world. Most of the grapes that we turn into wine are from the family known as Vitis vinifera, which originated in Asia and literally means making wine. Other species of the Vitis vine include the American Riparia, Labrusca and Rupestris, from which we get grapes for eating or for making jam. However, we also use these vines in winemaking for their resistance to the nasty bug Phylloxera. These form the roots of the plant, and your Vitis vinifera, the wine grape, is grafted up on top. There is increasing interest in hybrids between multiple Vitis species, as these can be much better at resisting diseases like mildew. However, the grapes that these produce, such as Phoenix, Rondo and Savel Blanc, are perhaps unfairly not seen as noble or as producing such appealing wines as the purebred vinifera. Perhaps this will change over time, particularly with the desire to reduce the use of pesticides and with pressure from climate change. Now, all of the Pinot family are Vitis vinifera vines that have evolved in different ways. There has been a lot of DNA analysis done at UC Davis in California to work out which grape evolved from which, and the Pinot family seems to have started with a vine known as Traminer or Savagnin from Austria. In the world of wine grapes, the Pinot's family tree is by far the most complex. Astonishingly, Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris and Grigio and Pinot Blanc have almost identical DNA profiles. There are then 21 known offspring, including, yes, Chardonnay, Aligoté, the Muscadet grape Melon, and Gamay from Beaujolais. It's really quite incredible to think that these almost identical plants can go on to produce grapes, which then creates such a panoply of wine styles. But it does get even more interesting. Now, you may have heard the word clone, and that might bring up images in your mind of the Matrix and mad scientists doing things with sheep. Behave. Anyway, it's not at all like that. All plants naturally mutate and evolve, and viticulturists around the world have for centuries looked around their vineyard and spotted the occasional vine which was behaving differently and better. For example, it might produce darker-skinned grapes, or it might be more resistant to droughts, or they might just have more space between the grapes, helping keep it disease-free. They then take cuttings of that vine and propagate it, potentially into a whole new vineyard, all of which has exactly the same DNA as that original plant. This is what they call clonal selection. Now, these clones tend to end up with really catchy names like 888, or who could forget the classic 114? Oh, just me. Yeah, viticulture geeks are weird. And while it was the French who really kicked this off, new clones are now defined all around the world, from Napa, Switzerland, New Zealand, and winemakers have their own favourites, each with its own set of quirks. Let's have a quick look at 3 different Pinot Noir clones just as an example. On the left here, the Dijon clone 777 has small tight bunches, and you can really see the pine cone shape from which the word Pinot, meaning pine, comes. The next clone has grapes of very different sizes, potentially offering a wider range of flavours, and while the third has looser berries. If you're in a cooler, wetter country like Germany or England, the moisture can get trapped in those tight 777 bunches, and the whole lot will rot, whereas a looser bunch allows the air in to dry it all out. So that's clones, and this is one of the biggest sources of differences in the wine. What many winemakers will do is to plant different clones so they can create the final style of wine that they're going for. Just look at this chart, which shows the differences between the flavours and the body and the tannin. It's really quite astonishing that all of these are Pinot Noir. So, going a bit more into the Pinot family itself, we have obviously Pinot Noir, which is also known as Spätburgunder, and Pinot Nero in Italy. This is seen as the oldest and most important variety of Pinot, and it thrives in cooler regions such as Burgundy, Oregon, Hemelonard in South Africa, Martinborough in New Zealand, Germany, and of course in Champagne. Pinot Noir is famously a very delicate grape. Too much heat will destroy it, it's susceptible to rot, and even to viruses such as fan leaf. We will of course talk a bit more about that later. Pinot Meunier, also known as Schwarzriesling or just Meunier, is named after the delicate dusty coating on the plant's leaves. Meunier means miller in French, and it looks like someone has just dusted the vine with flour. This dark-skinned grape, which evolved from Pinot Noir, is generally used in champagne, but can also make delicious red, rosé, or even white still wines. Now, Meunier is a very rare kind of evolution known as a chimera, where the plant actually has two different sets of DNA. Here, only one layer of the plant got the mutation and the other is still pure Pinot Noir. As an experiment, in 2002, scientists took and separated one cell from each of these two layers and turned it into a vine. The inner layer produced 100% normal Pinot Noir, whereas the outer made a very, very odd micro vine that basically didn't work at all. So Meunier lives a very fragile existence. Pinot Gris, Grauburgunder or Pinot Grigio is a very interesting one, and I'll leave Jamie to go into the differences as we taste wines 2 and 3. But this has a grey-purple skin which is really unique and allows it to make white or even rosé wines. It's also permitted in Champagne, and one of our favourite producers, Fox & Fox, makes a sensational English sparkling wine out of 100% Pinot Gris. Pinot Blanc, also known as Weissburgunder or Pinot Bianco, also mutated from Pinot Noir and suddenly lost all its colour. Mainly found in Alsace, it was often mistaken in vineyards for a very similar looking Chardonnay. This can be used as the base wine in Champagne and is often a bit of a workhorse, producing slightly dull styles. However, with careful treatment you can produce excellent full-bodied aromatic wines. We'll see what you think of this one in a little bit. But that is an overview of the Pinot family, how it came about, and tonight we are going to be tasting examples from across the world, showing how the landscapes, weather, and winemaking techniques can influence this incredible family of grapes. I think I make it time to go back to the studio and find out whether our first wine, the Pinot Blanc, is a hit or miss.